So, Five Nights at Freddy's, right? I always find it really cool how much staying power that series has had. My introduction to it was when I was in 5th grade. I was walking home with my friend and he was telling me about it. And I was like, dude, this sounds stupid. What do you mean you get chased around a pizzeria by a bear? But then I watched the Markiplier Let's Play and it all made sense to me. I think I probably followed the series up until like Sister Location, then kind of fell off. But it's really crazy and kind of cool to me how 5th graders today are still having that moment of their friend introducing them to Five Nights at Freddy's and then going and watching Markiplier play it. Anyway, today mascot horror is a whole genre. You know, you have your Poppy Playtimes and Garden of Bands. But back in my day, buddy, we didn't have mascot horror. Rather, we had FNAF fan games, and almost all of them copied FNAF's gameplay system. Some of them were very good, many of them were not. A lot of them were really funny, though. So in this video, I want to play some of the classics from those days and hopefully relive some good memories. I'm going to start with the most legit ones from back in the day, then we're going off the rails from there. I'm writing this before actually playing any of them, but I'm excited. I think this will be a lot of fun. But before I start, I need to acknowledge my own biases. I am so insanely trash at Five Nights at Freddy's. Back when the games came out on mobile, I tried to play the first one and I was horrible. Now I tried to play it again on PC a couple months ago and I was still horrible. Nothing had changed. At the time of writing, I have still never actually beat a FNAF game. I lived the entire series through Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and Game Theory. But it'll be different this time. Trust me, bro. So I remember Five Nights at Candy's being like the FNAF fan game that everybody talked about. I think there's a couple reasons for that, but the biggest would be that it's a very well-made fan game. Like if you were just craving for more Five Nights at Freddy's, but you already played all the actual games, Candy's would deliver. Another reason I think this one was so popular would be because it takes place inside the FNAF universe, which you can tell right away because Phone Guy is like, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria? Fuck that place.
You may have heard about the place called Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria.
Oh my god, shut up.
Yeah, they got shut down yesterday. I don't know why, though. Probably something like tax fraud or such, you know?
Yeah.
I never really liked that place. I always had a bad feeling about it, you know? Their pizzas weren't even that good. Anyway.
Which is funny, but you also see the Mimic in this game, which I'm sure has some lore implications. But I'm so far removed from the story and lore of FNAF that I really couldn't tell you. I will say, though, I thought this game was very easy, like much easier than any of the actual FNAF games. So this being the first one I played, I was terrified at about night 3, which is the point when all of the animatronics have become active. You have Candy, the namesake, a big blue cat, and Cindy, a pink cat, the monkey, or Chester the chimp, Blank, Old Candy, the penguin, and the rat. Before we go over each, the main way this game changes the formula is that the night vision on the cameras has to be toggled on, which then uses power, but also obviously lets you see what's happening. The catch is that for most of the animatronics, you can see their eyes without turning on night vision, so you can at least tell what room they're in, you just can't tell who it is. You have 3 doors to guard, left, front, and right, and when there's an animatronic there, you can see their eyes glowing, of course signaling you to close that door. This is all very above board so far. So night 1 is just Candy and Cindy. They just roam around and will show up at doors with their glowing eyes. You can either just rely on seeing them in the doorways or use night vision to see them at the doors, then of course close them and protect yourself. Night 2 introduces the monkey, who's like this game's Foxy. Usually he's hiding behind a curtain, but will come out. He doesn't have the creepy song like Foxy does, though. Again, though, while the monkey can be pretty fast, you can see his eyes in the dark, so you can very easily track him and block him off when he does get there. Night 3 is where it gets interesting. This night, Phone Guy introduces you to Blank, which is this animatronic that kids can draw on, so its skin is like plain brown with scribbles all over. Blank is the only enemy that will use the front entrance, but he doesn't move from his room at all until he does.
Fuck! Did he break the camera?
To deal with Blank, you have to keep checking his room, and if you ever see him not in that room, that means he's about to break through the front entrance and kill you. You also can't see his eyes in the dark, which is important because Night 4 then introduces Old Candy.
Who the fuck is that?
Now I love Night 4 because Phone Guy doesn't give you the slightest warning that the Old Candy or the penguin will show up on this night. You just see them on the camera and start panicking. Old Candy's thing is that he has no eyes, meaning that not only can you not see him on cameras without night vision, you also can't see him when he's in the doorway without using the camera. I love this shakeup, and again, I love how he just shows up on night 4 with no warning. Penguin is in the same boat. You have no warning of his arrival. He's the exact opposite of Old Candy. When he's in the doorway, you can't see him on cameras because he's tiny, but you can see his eyes glowing. Unlike the rest, Penguin won't actually kill you, rather he just harasses you. He'll open and close doors at random, which is really annoying and wastes a bunch of power, but sometimes he'll actually save you by doing that, so maybe the Penguin is chill. And then if you play Night 6, they just introduce a second broken animatronic called the Rat. All in all though, I thought this game was super easy. I think I died 3 times. Once to Blank, once to Old Candy, then once to Cindy when I accidentally clicked out of the game. None of those times were on Night 6 though, so that shows you how easy this game is. I think the story aspect is really well done though. You see security cam footage of the Mimic. I don't know who the fuck the Mimic is. I think I called him that before too. I mean the marionette, the puppet. I don't know who the Mimic is. I don't know where that came from. Doing something weird and bloody in between each night. But my favorite thing they do is this message you get on the phone on night 5. It kind of reminds me of that part from PT. Confession time. Sometimes I just listen to the audio from PT in the background while I'm doing whatever. The radio broadcasts and shit. And
you got fired, so you drowned your sorrows in booze.
I don't know, man. That game is just so well voice acted. Anyway, I really like Five Nights at Candy's. I think it's well deserving of the reputation it had back in the day as one of the better fan games. Next up is One Night at Flumpty's, which I remember really liking when I watched the Markiplier videos. There was one thing in particular I thought this game did that was super creepy, and it's always stuck with me since. Anyway, the name kind of gives away the big difference between this one and the other fan games. There's only one night you need to survive, although that night is much longer than the nights in the other games. It's not a full 6 hours though, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. The cast this time is Flumpty Bumpty, Birthday Boy Blan, the Beaver, Grunk Fuss the Clown, and Red Man. So another thing I love about Flumpty's is that unlike the main series and many fan games, this game does not take itself seriously at all. I'm not even really sure where this game is supposed to take place. It's definitely not a restaurant. The art style is also very well done here. It's this really cute 2D art that of course is not scary at all. But I wouldn't say that most of the animatronics look that scary on their own anyway. Maybe a little creepy, but not scary. Flumpty's isn't even really trying at that, but I think there are 2 that are actually pretty creepy. Anyway, Flumpty and Birthday Boy Blan are the Bonnie and Chica this time around. The cameras work like normal, though you will notice that one of them is out. If you look around at these cameras, you're like, where the fuck am I? Parts of it look kind of like a kindergarten or something. Then there's this room full of a multi-eyed monster pit, a hell room, and a camera directly overlooking a stall in the bathroom. It's so stupid, but I love it. Anyway, with those 2, it's just like normal. When you don't see them on the cameras anymore, it means they're lurking outside your door, so you close the door until you see them on cams again. Flumpty is pretty prompt about it, but the damn birthday boy will take his sweet time leaving your private property. You find the Beaver sitting on that toilet in the bathroom, and for a while he does nothing until you check that camera and see no Beaver on the toilet.
What the fuck?
Which means he's running down the hallway at you, so you rapidly close the door and Beaver is shut out, where he proceeds to knock on the door a couple times before heading back to continue his shitting session. This is all pretty standard, but around 3 or 4 a.m. is where it starts getting fun. So I mentioned earlier that one of the cameras will always be out. At least for me, before 3 a.m. it was the hell room. So I just figured up until then whatever was in that room wasn't relevant, until suddenly the outage had moved. And then eventually you'll notice that all of the cameras are up, so you check the doorways only to find this thing staring at you. Red Man. It's actually a cool gimmick because it took me a minute to connect the dots between the camera outages and Red Man showing up at my doorstep. The final enemy introduced is Grunk Fuss, and he's the entire reason why I remember this game. So that hole in the wall at the front of your office. You probably noticed it earlier, but this office has a ton of shit in it. Why would you notice the hole in the wall in particular? Well, at around 4 a.m. you see this poking out of the hole, and then every single time you open cameras, he'll get a little closer, until eventually almost his entire body is out of the hole, which means you're very close to dying. This of course means that you have to be very tactical about how and when you use the cameras. Previously, you could use them to track the animatronics as they moved around, and most importantly, you could tell when they were at your door and when they weren't. Of course, the big one is the beaver. You have no way of knowing he's coming unless you see the empty toilet on the camera. Now though, with the clown emerging, you need to decide which of those camera uses is the most important to you. For me, I just decided that occasionally checking up on Beaver would be enough. I just rely on the lights for the doors, which worked pretty well for me, although Grunkfuss did get pretty close towards the end of the night. There's also Golden Flumpty, but I think his appearance is just random chance. What you're supposed to do when he shows up is whip out the cameras, otherwise he'll kill you. All in all, I'm starting to think that I just sucked at video games as a kid because I beat Flumpty's on my first try. I think maybe like my pattern recognition wasn't as good as a kid or something because I pretty much figured out all the gimmicks of the animatronics right away, and none of them were really a concern for me. I did die to Golden Flumpty on hard-boiled mode, which I think makes them all appear a little sooner. Like Redman is active from the start and the clown shows up at 2:30 a.m. instead of 4 a.m., meaning you have to spend much more time being careful with your cameras. All in all, though, I actually think Flumpty should be in the conversation for one of the best original fan games alongside Candies, and the next one. I think that specifically what they did with Grunkfuss the Clown was such a good idea, and it's genuinely really creepy to slowly watch him emerge. It's like you know exactly what's causing him to get closer, but you also know that you can't not use the cameras, so he forces you to accept that danger and try to mitigate it rather than being able to get rid of it altogether. As for the story, it's not really that type of game. I mean, there were sequels, so maybe there is a story, but I doubt it ever gets very deep. This game is just like a fun little experience for FNAF fans to play while they waited for more mainline games.
Just grab my ears while you fuck my butt!
Next up, we have another very well-made fan game, although I honestly can't say how it was back in 2014, because the version I played was updated in 2020. Maybe it was trash back then, I don't know. Anyway, it's Five Nights at Treasure Island based on the creepypasta Abandoned by Disney, which is definitely one of the classics, although I've never actually read the whole thing. Or listened, I guess. My YouTuber of choice was Creeps McPasta. Let me know in the comments whose yours was. Honestly, don't know why I never actually stuck with Abandoned by Disney, like it genuinely is one of the pillars of old creepypastas. I would say it's on the same level as like hyper-realistic bloody Pokemon games, but probably not as like Russian Sleep Experiment. I don't know though. Anyway, the general premise is that there's this abandoned Disney theme park where they find like living mascots, like they have mascot exteriors but fleshy interiors. The most famous of them being Inverted Mickey, which is exactly what it sounds like. I don't know the lore well enough to know whether it's explained why exactly Disney made these things, but this game has you play as a college intern who's helping out with research into the island in exchange for credits. I'm a bit stupid, so when they said credits the first time, I thought it was like money, but obviously they mean college credits. I'm a little slow. The cast this time around are Disney characters. You have Inverted Mickey, Donald Duck, Minnie Mouse, Oswald, Goofy, then you have Mickey with eyes and weirdly human-looking Mickey in a suit, as well as this bloke on night 6. Anyway, this game is very different from the previous two in a number of ways, but the biggest one is that it's hard as fuck. Like, holy shit, man. But before that, let me explain how this game works. So unlike Five Nights at Freddy's itself, you have no doors. Those mascots are free to come and go as they please. All that you have are cameras, a light switch, and the ability to hold your breath and stand very still. So here's what you do. Some of the characters can't see very well, so what you can do is turn off a camera, causing a loud noise which draws them out of the office. That's the vast majority of them. Then you have Goofy and Weirdo Mickey who require you to stand very still to avoid them. If you try to hit a camera, they'll catch your movement and kill you. Then you have Mickey with eyes who you need to turn off the lights to avoid. You also need to do that to conserve power, kinda, only if you actually use the cameras, which I don't think is necessary at all. I think the cameras in this game, aside from Night 6, are basically useless, because unlike all the other games, it doesn't really fucking matter if you know where the mascots are because you can't stop them from entering your office. You can only deal with them once they do. So this was basically how I play this game. I just sat there in my office waiting for whoever to appear, then try to get rid of them as quickly as possible. It sounds easy, right? Well, it kind of is until they start stacking up on you. So like there's only 3 possible things you need to do, right? But what if you need to do 2 of those things in a row? The problem is you need to be very perceptive to know what order you need to do those 2 things in, otherwise you're probably going to die. Let's say Inverted Mickey, who can be sent away by ejecting a camera, and Headless Goofy appear one after another. The way you know a mascot is appearing is by the lights flickering, but sometimes they happen so close to each other that it's basically impossible to tell who actually appeared first. Well, what happened to me was my brain short-circuited and I went on cams to get rid of Mickey, only to then remember that Goofy was also there, so I exited cams to hold my breath, and now I'm dead. That's what you can't do. You cannot hesitate in the slightest in this game if you want to survive. Now the thing is, you actually have much more time to deal with these bastards than you probably think you do. Like, realistically, you can very easily flick on cams, get rid of Mickey, then deal with Goofy, or even do the opposite. But what you can't do is think for even a second on which one you need to do first. It gets even worse when things like this happen.
I fucked it up.
Or this.
I'm gonna fucking kill myself. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing, bro?
Or any of the other diabolical combos this game hits you with in night 4 or 5. A consistent problem for me was the eye Mickey. He's the only one you need to turn off lights for, so my brain almost always prioritized him over others, when in reality I think he has one of the longer windows before he'll kill you. Of course we're talking a difference of like 2 seconds, but still. Nights 1 and 2 are very easy. Those nights are really for you to learn how to spot when a mascot has entered your room. With some, it's pretty damn obvious. Donald just screams in your ear, for example, but Minnie and Oswald can be pretty subtle. Oswald only appears in this dark corner where you kind of have to squint to see him, and Minnie only ever appears off to your side. Night 3 is the first time you have to deal with Goofy, which means it's the first time you have to mix up between the cameras and holding your breath. Night 4 then introduces Eye-Boy, and Night 5 introduces Suit Mickey, who works a lot like Goofy. It's really nights 4 and 5 where the game gets hard because they'll just bombard you with mascot after mascot, and it's up to you to make the right decision on what buttons you need to press. I think it's really well done, and I do love the concept, but also, like, some of this feels a little unfair. Like, how could you possibly expect me to deal with some of this? I guess the key is just not panicking in general, but I feel like that's impossible in certain situations. This game also has this cool, like, point-and-click adventure section in between nights 3 and 4. You have to flashbang certain mascots while turning off your light for others. I like it. Night 6, I gave up on. Fuck Night 6. So in Night 6, all of the mascots combine into one, and that one can need any of the 3 methods to send it away. The way you can tell is by where you spawn, but I have no idea what the logic is behind each spawn point, although I'm sure there is logic somewhere. I just said fuck it. I mean, the original Five Nights at Freddy's already made me nearly suffer congestive heart failure. I was not trying to go through that again. I think this game in particular really drove home to me what made these games so scary in the first place. It's not the actual mascots, like in this case, I'd say Eyeball Mickey and Suit Mickey are the only ones that are unnerving. But like when you talk about the original FNAF, none of them really look that scary in isolation. Uncanny, sure, but not scary. It's the tension that gets you with these games. It's sitting there at 5 AM, only 1 hour to go, knowing that any small mistake will result in your death and you being sent back to the beginning of the night to go through it all over again. It's really good and effective horror, and of all the people to make me realize that, it was fucking Mickey Mouse. I really thought this game was well done though. There's obviously a reason why this one and Candies are remembered so fondly. Anyway, that was kind of the last serious one. We're getting into the good ones now.
Get yourself ready for a trip through McDonald's land.
Next up, we have one that was bound to be made eventually just based on like what real life brands have mascots. It's Five Nights at Ronald's. A McDonald's location decided that to boost their business, they would add animatronics of the McDonald's cast from those old McDonald's Land cartoons. I don't remember why, but they showed us some of these randomly when I was in elementary school. Obviously, I knew who Ronald McDonald was. He was pretty big back in my day, but I was like, who the hell is Grimace? But now, post-Grimace Shake incident, I think the McDonald's cast is probably more popular than they've been in a long time. Anyway, you have Ronald McDonald, Grimace, the Hamburglar, Birdie, Mayor McCheese, and an inflatable version of Ronald that acts like the Mimic from FNAF 2. What exactly is the mechanism behind an inflatable only being able to inflate itself in the darkness? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Anyway, this game is much less creative than the others. Each character serves an almost identical role to a FNAF character. The only exception is Mayor McCheese, who as far as I can tell does play a new and unique role. Grimace and Hamburglar are the Bonnie and Chica. They wander around appearing in one of the doorways, but giving you more than enough time to notice them unless you're like gooning to Birdie on the cameras or something. Birdie is the Foxy of this game. She looks absolutely nothing like the cartoon, but she hides in the freezer and will slowly come out over the course of the night, eventually sprinting down the hallway at you to kill you. Ronald is, honestly can't tell you what he does. My impression is that he will only attack you from the right side, but you can't see him in the doorway, so you have to watch cams to know when he's going to get you. I think he works exactly like Freddy from the first FNAF. And then the mayor. So he'll go into the kitchen and try to get into the vents there, which is like a straight shot into the manager's office. Why that is, I don't know. I feel like the manager probably wouldn't want to be getting funneled raw chicken nugget exhaust all day. If he does, you're fucked. But as long as you catch him in the act and press the repel button in time, he'll go away for a while. And that's what you have to manage in this game. Overall, pretty similar to the first Five Nights at Freddy's game. Well, I'm very ashamed to admit it, but I gave up on beating Night 5 in this game. I am just not cut out for what this game wants out of you. So I'd say in general, FNAF games are more about management. It's about effectively knowing what's happening in your establishment so that you know when an animatronic is about to kill you and you can stop them. In contrast, the last game was not like that. Treasure Island was more about your reflexes than anything. It was about quickly recognizing who was attacking you and doing their corresponding action quick enough to avoid dying. Ronald's is also a lot like that, but you have to both effectively manage the Donnies while also having lightning-fast reflexes to catch when they're about to kill you. Specifically, we're talking about Birdie and the Mayor here. Birdie kills you so insanely fast once she leaves the freezer. It's like if you don't catch her just when she leaves, she's basically going to get you. That becomes a problem when you also need to charge up the lights in the inflatable room, which might mean you miss her leaving the freezer and instantly die. The Mayor isn't so bad until Night 5. Before that, he spends a pretty decent amount of time climbing into the vents, so you can easily catch him as long as you're paying some amount of attention. Night 5, though, holy fuck, dude, it's like maybe 10 seconds between him appearing in the kitchen and then going into the vent and you dying. So in general, I just think this game was a little poorly made, but it's not horrible up until Night 5. Now, the phone guy in this game, I mean, you gotta have a phone guy, right? Well, in this game, he starts off pretty standard until his son ends up in the hospital and then McDonald's fires him, leading to this phone call.
Pick up the damn phone.
What do you expect from society when they just take what you really love? Forgiveness? That's not enough for me. My son could have been saved, but they just had to fire me. They only cared about the money.
Why are you telling me this?
They had enough. They never cared for people like me. Not even for my son. Now I want revenge. I want everyone to feel what I'm feeling right now. Society had its chance.
Okay, buddy.
While I was looking into this game, I kept seeing people mention how this game's story was based off a shooting at a McDonald's, and I was like, whatever, until I heard that phone call, which sounds a lot like a manifesto. And it turns out, yes indeed, that phone call directly quotes the manifesto of the perpetrator of the San Ysidro McDonald's shooting, which killed 22 people. What the fuck, man? Where did that come from? And why would you choose to reference that in your McDonald's-based Five Nights at Freddy's game? Edginess is the answer. It was a different time back then. Anyway, this one is just okay. It doesn't really do anything to differentiate itself like the others have, besides just being set in the McDonald's. Alright, next up we have one that I was very intent on getting into this video, although I seem to have completely misremembered the game. It's Five Nights at the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob-inspired mascot horror. Let's go! Now, I was like 90% sure that this game had you sitting at the cash register of the Krusty Krab, like, you know, the little boat that Squidward sits in, but I guess not. You're just in a back office. Anyway, I think this game tries to be more unique and individual than Ronald's, which is cool, but it very much fails to deliver on that. We'll get into it. The cast this time is, of course, Spinge Binge, Rick, Thaddeus, Mrs. Cheeks, and Mr. Krabs himself, except they're not actually those characters. The story this time around is that Mr. Krabs is expanding his business, but rather than hiring new employees, he just creates animatronic versions of himself and his 2 employees. Now, I'll have you know that I take SpongeBob lore very seriously, so I do appreciate that this game calls out that this is actually the 3rd Krusty Krab location, because in the SpongeBob movie, we already got the Krusty Krab 2. Anyway, this is absolutely something Mr. Krabs would do. I mean, he sold SpongeBob's soul for 62 cents at one point. But I do find it weird that he included Patrick and Sandy in this. Like, those are not your employees, bro. They're just random people. I guess maybe he thought that he could get SpongeBob to work harder if his friends were there, but that's kind of the opposite of what happens in the show whenever they're there. But whatever, I'm reading way too far into this. Anyway, this game does try some new things. Patrick and the Sponge are the Bonnie and Chica of this game. Mr. Krabs is Freddy, or I guess Ronald McDonald. But Sandy and Squid are where it gets interesting. Squidward honestly isn't super interesting, he just appears right in front of you and you have to strobe your flashlight to get him to go away. Sandy, though, actually is very unique. So she does 2 things. Firstly, she'll go into the breaker room, which you have a door and a light control for, and just fuck shit up. This means that the lights flicker and you can't close the doors, which is bad for more than one reason, but the biggest is that the lights flickering is how you tell one of the animatronics is near. After she's done fucking with the power, Sandy will show up at the right door and then never leave. She'll be there the whole night, making your lights flicker for hours on end. I mean, if I had epilepsy, I would have been cooked with this game. That means that you have to keep the door shut for hours on end, burning power, and you still have to manage the other door, right? Damn, that sounds kinda hard. How are you supposed to deal with that? Well, actually, the answer is that you don't deal with that. Sandy acting the way she does makes this game so stupidly easy when you realize that she won't attack you until you open the cameras. So the only two animatronics that you need to actually check cams for are Sandy and Krabs, right? Sandy because she'll mess with the power if you don't stop her, and Krabs because he attacks you from the left stairwell rather than ever appearing in your doorway. But the thing about Mr. K is that as far as I can tell, once he enters the left stairwell, he never leaves. Meaning that once he's there, you need to close the left door for the rest of the night, which also means you don't need to check cams for him anymore because the door is shut. So with Sandy in the doorway ready to attack the second you check cams, and Mr. Krabs on the left side making his way to the stairwell, all you have to do to survive every night in this game, including night 6, is wait until Sandy goes to the right door, then just close the left door, leaving the right door open and never check cams. This means that Mr. Krabs can't attack you because the door is shut and Sandy won't attack you because you're not checking cams. It also means that Patrick and SpongeBob are basically locked out because one door is shut and the other is occupied. All you have to deal with is Squidward, who's by far the easiest to get rid of. So yeah, I think in trying to be unique with the whole Sandy never leaves the doorway thing, this game just lets itself become really easy. It does also look really basic. The characters don't look that good, but I will say they actually do look like what robots always looked like in SpongeBob, so it's actually kind of well done in that regard. I don't want to shit on this game too hard because it was very clearly like a stupid idea that somebody had for a fan game, but like, I also can't really compliment it because it made me spend like 20 minutes sitting there in silence getting my eyes destroyed by the strobes. Now we're really entering the 7th circle of hell with this one, Five Nights at Thomas's. Now this game was not on my radar until I was downloading either Ronald's or Krusty Krab and I saw it there, so of course I had to download it and try it out. What a fucking mistake that was. This is less of a game and more of a psychological torture, and honestly kind of physical torture too. So there's only one enemy in the game, Thomas the Tank Engine. There's also only one door, you just shine the flashlight down the hallway and if you see the PNG of Thomas, you close the door. However, you're like on a damn train or something because you need to constantly be shoveling coal into a furnace, otherwise you lose power and Thomas kills you. It's pretty manageable until you close a door, at which point you literally have to fight for your life to not run out of power until Thomas leaves.
God fucking damn it. How bad is this gonna get on night 5? It's already, I'm literally permanently damaging the fucking tendons in my hand to do this shit.
And that happens like 4 times an hour in game, so you literally sit there spamming the mouse button to shovel coal in while occasionally checking to see if the fucking tank engine is gone. But sometimes he will leave and come back in between you checking, which means you have to shovel coal even longer.
No way. No fucking way.
Oh boy! Fucking Thomas the Tank Engine was just at my door, dude. What the hell? I don't even remember where the fuck I was. And like, it's so insanely bad, dude. And you think to yourself, surely something will change on night 2, or night 3, or night 4, or night 5. But nope, that's the game, buddy. All that changes is Phone Guy's speeches, which are all just amazing.
Oh, and some other useful information that you may be able to use as... Oh, okay.
Wait, I don't...
Some other useful information that you may be able to use is that... Shut up! Sorry, Bob. I'll be right there.
Holy fucking shit, I can't keep up.
Shut up! It's all useful information that you may be able to use is that... But you're... Oh, you need to put coma for this, by the way. You better not! Mom! Get out of my room! Mom!
This has gotta be the fucking stupidest game I've ever played in my fucking life.
Close the door, make it too close, and put coal in it!
What the fuck? What the fuck? God damn, I don't like this shit.
I mean, one time he gets beat up by his mom, his girlfriend dumps him, cops arrest him, and it's all played through this really stupid sounding voice. Obviously this game is just one massive joke, but I honestly can't believe I conned myself into playing this. I feel like it is the logical conclusion to what I've been doing with this video though. Like, we started off with the actually good, well-made golden era FNAF fan games, Candies and Treasure Island being some of the most famous, but Flumpty's being a personal favorite. Then we went into more parody territory with Ronald's and Krusty Krabs, but those two games were still trying at least. Trying to reference an extremely tragic event? Maybe. And then Thomas's is just a complete shitter. But wait, the video is not over yet. Five Nights at Fuckboys is not at all like the rest of the games we've talked about so far, because it's not a game where you have to survive 5 nights in a restaurant while evil animatronics hunt for you. Rather, it's an RPG Maker game where you play as Freddy Fazbear trying to destroy the cameras around the restaurant so that he can go have a crazy night out on the town. This game is so fucking stupid, but it's also pretty well made and honestly kind of fun to play. The humor is also just so absurd that you can't help but laugh at it.
You go into the bathroom, Chica. I can't do it. It doesn't work. It's not me.
Devour my hot bird ass Freddy.
So you play as Freddy, and you first have to go recruit the other characters. Chica, who wants you to eat her ass. Bonnie, who lost his face and needs you to get it back for him. And Foxy, who's jerking it in the Pirate Cove until you burn it down and force him out. It's a very serious game about dead children and haunted puppets, you see. The dialogue is really, really stupid, but it stuck with me since I watched a playthrough of this game like a century ago, particularly this line.
Inhale my dong enragement child.
But also what Freddy says anytime you enter combat.
Oh shit.
Now beyond the humor, what you have here is a kind of standard RPG Maker game that just has some really strange choices in it that add to how iconic this game is for me. First of all, the only enemies in this game besides the bosses are party hats, which come in various sizes and colors, and then like 90% of the bosses are cameras. To address how boring the enemies are, this game just blasts you with some mythical choices from like every music genre you can imagine.
God damn.
You have like J-pop, dad rock, standard video game fight music. According to the credits, there's also a Tupac song somewhere in the game. Like, you truly do not know what you're getting anytime you enter combat in this game. Now, the combat yourself is not bad. I've definitely played worse RPG Maker games. I was actually going to make a video on weird RPG Maker games, but it just felt like I was bullying teenagers for making a shitty game, which I felt bad about. Anyway, each character has a basic scream attack and then 4 abilities. You have HP, SP, which lets you use abilities, and then TP, which are needed for the special ability each character has. Freddy is basically pure damage, but he does get one attack that can put an enemy to sleep, although it's kind of stupid because it puts them to sleep, and then damages them so they end up waking up by the end of the attack. Freddy is solid though. He unlocks an ability at level 15, which is the max. It seems like it's like a nuke or something, but I never managed to actually meet the requirements to use it. Chica is purely a support character. She really has no damage potential, but she can heal, revive, and restore the SP of other characters, as well as remove buffs off enemies. Bonnie is mainly a debuffer, but he does it through dealing damage, which makes him really good. Particularly, he has an attack called Bunny Hop that can lower an enemy's defenses, which with how much health some of the bosses in this game have, it's very needed. Foxy usually does the most damage as well as being the fastest, but probably his most useful ability lets him share his speed and evasion with the rest of the party, which just gives you such an insane advantage. You get to upgrade each character's weapons, armor, and items, which they basically only have one set of, just 4 different tiers, and you get a new tier each time you beat a special boss party hat. This game has very strict level and gear requirements to the point where if you're too low level and your gear is shit, your attacks literally won't damage higher level enemies. The way you get those upgrades is through Balloon Boy, and aside from like the very beginning of the game, if you don't know what you're doing, you'll always have enough tokens to get what you need from him. Anyway, there's a clock counting up from midnight. This didn't happen to me, but I assume you fail if the clock hits 6 AM because that's when the place opens, so Freddy can't go party. At a certain point in the night, the puppet appears, which is a boss fight that you'll be forced into after 5 minutes. I didn't really find him that hard, but after you beat him, you can then fight him again, and that one was too hard for me. Or like, not even too hard, he just had so much health that I knew the fight would be like 20 minutes long and I didn't want to deal with that. Once each character hits max level, you can also find their toy variants around the place, which you can go kill to get a new attack. But I fucked that up by accidentally fighting the final boss first, so I didn't get to see those fights. So the way difficulty works in this game is literally just the power meter in the top left. And you need to keep that in mind because you can access basically the entire map from the second you start the game. So if you go wandering into a 5 power level area at anything other than max level, you're basically fucked. One thing that the extra difficulty mode Night XX does that I like is that it gates the Party Hat boss fights and thus Balloon Boy upgrades behind actually fighting the cameras in the order you're supposed to. On my playthrough, I basically got to almost max level before I fought a single camera, so most of them are pretty easy for me. The cameras usually have some kind of gimmick, like the bathroom camera poisons your entire party because of how bad that place smells. You know, shit like that. It's fun and it does at least differentiate the fight somewhat, which is needed because they're all really the same thing. Anyway, the final boss is Golden Freddy, who spawns with 4 party hats around him, but besides that and this one attack he has which does do crazy damage, he's really not that hard on Night X mode. XX was definitely a lot harder, and I didn't even want to try Triple X, which apparently prevents you from leveling up. Anyway, this game is really well made for what it is. I feel like I'd be remiss to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's fan games without talking about Fuckboys as well. They made like 5 of these, which you can access from the one install, so maybe I'll try the other one sometime. So let's conclude. 2015 to 2017 was a really special time to be a Five Nights at Freddy's fan. Not only because you were in the first wave of middle schoolers to enjoy the franchise, but also because there was a vibrant but very inexperienced ecosystem of fan games for you to play. Some of them were very well made, like Candy's, Treasure Island, and Flumpty's. Some of them tried their best but came up pretty short, like Ronald and Krusty Krab, and one of them is meant to break you down mentally until you start shoveling coal in your dreams. But I think those games, as well as the absolute banger that is Five Nights at Fuckboys, are really like historical touchstones into what the community was like at that time. Now, mascot horror is like this big marketable phenomenon, so it's kind of cool to go back to a time when, besides Scott Cawthon himself, it was really just random autists and furries making these kind of games. And you know what? I'll say it. There's no one better than autists and furries when it comes to fan games. Thank you all so much for watching.